Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. Bradley's mother, Narcus Golan, passed away in the fall of 2023. He is autistic and needs structured routine and therapies he receives for his autism 6 days a week. However, Italy just entrusted Bradley to Italian social services. If he is ruled to go back, he will face the next 3 to 4 years in the Italian foster care system where he can't speak or understand the language. He will then be taken away from the only family he has ever known. Please call Governor Hochul, New York State, 518-474-8390. That's Governor Hochul, 518-474-8390 to please keep Bradley here safe in these United States. Hashtag keep Bradley safe. And if you could go to the site, pleasedoyourjob.com. We need 2,000 more signatures to get a case reopened. This is time sensitive. That's pleasedoyourjob.com. And I have a return guest on. I'm so happy to have Ryan Kolar on. He was last on season 4, episode 143. That was August 24th of 2023, where we talked about him being framed after he proved that his daughter was abused. So I welcome you back with some updates to your case. And how are you doing? And you have so much to tell me.
We have a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do.
Well, case matters since January of 23, when the 604 report came out. It basically was a cover-up for all of the dirty court agents in the case. It said in explicit terms that the GAL and opposing counsel had inexplicitly removed my child without cause. All of the reasons, it's clearly stated in the report that all of the reasons they used to remove her in March of 22 were false, were based on hearsay, were based on lies, and had fabricated evidence. Mm-hmm. They went as far as fabricating an existing DCFS investigation into me that never existed. And I had the state prove that to the judge. The report covered that. The report reported that I passed all my psych evals. Mm-hmm. And the report also said my ex-wife did not pass all of hers. Mm-hmm. It also stated the stepfather, who at the time was the boyfriend at the time of the incidents, fit the profile of a pedophile, and that he fits the profile of a groomer, and that in multiple interviews with him and multiple researches, it was clear that he was not a balanced person, had infantile type syndrome and behaviors, and honestly seemed to be quote unquote creepy. So that was the report that came out January of 23. Mm. A month before it came out, the judge suppressed the entire case. She also threatened me with jail time if I reported anything about the case to outside sources, breaking her suppression order. Now, in Illinois, where we are located, I'm allowed to report anything I like to if it involves a crime against a child. Mm-hmm. So the judge has to know that law. And the judge still put the order in, as well as violating multiple HIPAA rights from me requesting medical records, psychological records, and social worker records of my daughter, with different parties coming in the court via proxy and saying those records were destroyed, which again is against the law. Mm-hmm. Of an under 12-year-old.
Do you want to say the judge's name or no?
Oh, absolutely. Judge Karen Bowes of Cook County.
How do you spell her last name?
Bowes.
Okay.
So I actually looked up Godfrey's website, and she was already listed on abusivejudges.com, which is a good resource for parents to know if your judge has previously been reported for dirty deeds.
Yes, childabusivejudges.com.
So that was the report. They knew it was coming. They suppressed it. Mm-hmm. We proved that she changed the report between November and January. It was released right before Christmas, which for those who are new to the game, they like to drop heavy deals and heavy orders right before the holidays.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's a big one. Mm-hmm.
Because it gives you multiple weeks to stew, multiple weeks to not have access to a response, and they all basically get a nice little long break to re-strategize how they're going to do parents wrong next. And I've
Yeah.
learned that through multiple years of being in this court process.
Oh, well, sure, because they're having their Christmas parties and drinking.
Well, my judge gave Jewish holidays to the court break as well. So we basically we don't convene in Decembers.
Oh,
So that was the report. And as I stated before in the last podcast, that under Illinois rule of law, accepting supervised parenting is a admission of guilt in many ways in the court.
okay.
I've never accepted supervised parenting. It was offered to me a week after they took her. Had mandated nightly phone calls; those were removed. And even though I offered nightly Zoom calls on recording, so
Mhm,
that way if I say anything illicit, they could come at me with it.
mhm,
The child representative and the GAL voted against it because what it became clear was my daughter's stories were true.
mhm,
The threat was real. The court agents actively colluded to cover up their own crimes and to cover up the abuse, the
mhm.
judge allowing that to occur. And my daughter's the key witness and is now 11. She first reported things at 8.5. She was removed at 9.5, and now she's 11, and she's the key witness. And
Mm.
so, by all definition, they won't let me talk to her on record or on recording because if she says something that's damning, all of these people go to prison. So
And
they're
the
currently holding her hostage with
oh,
all these little tricks to not allow her to see me. And the cherry on top is that the court assigned psychologist who was never allowed to report to court reported to the 604 custody evaluator, which was not supposed to be allowed under judge's order. She reported to the GAL, again, not supposed to be reporting the GAL. The GAL actually lobbied for her to come on the case and be isolated from all parties except my daughter, to give my daughter a safe space to talk.
mhm,
And now they assigned that same psychologist that my daughter reported abusing her in her first few sessions. They assigned her as my supervisor for parenting, my quote unquote anger management classes, and my reunification classes. She's the assigned psychologist for all of it.
mhm.
So they literally are going to use the woman my daughter claimed abused her. I submitted the report my daughter made to court, and she was never removed. And now she's the filter for my daughter's words to me in closed session. That is how dirty this case has got. They're
Mhm.
using the same agents to cover up and manipulate and isolate my child, and the same agents to quote unquote report on me if I ever have the audacity to come in for reunification camp or supervised parenting.
Oh, they're disgusting. And this is happening to parents probably globally.
So that's the last I've
Oh,
involved myself with the court.
mhm.
That was January of 23, a year ago. They have tried to file default motions. The judge threw them out because under Illinois law, and I'm not sure this is the same for all parents, but they can only remove a child for 4 reasons. The 604 custody evaluator proved I was not mentally ill,
Mhm.
proved I was not neglecting her, proved that I was geographically within the region of our divorce/parenting agreement,
Mm.
and proved that I wasn't a threat to her in any capacity, which is the only 4 reasons they can change parenting in Illinois.
Mm.
They also are required to give me a trial, which they never have.
Mm.
They've dangled it a few times, but they've never given me a trial. They've never allowed me to present a witness. They've never allowed me to present evidence. And this is 2.5 years during the system. Now they're hiding behind the 604 evaluation report saying, well, she says Ryan has an anger problem, which stems from the removal of his child. So you caused the problem.
Mhm.
Now you're trying to sell me the solution, $300 an hour supervision, $300 an hour psychologist, $300 an hour anger management, $300 an hour reunification camps, that I have to jump through those hoops. And the person who's in charge of that is the same person that my daughter reported abused her. How on earth is that not a conflict of interest?
Oh, this is terrible.
So as stubborn as I am, I'm not going to submit to any of that. And so what I did, my update basically for you, is we've been working feverishly on civil and state and federal lawsuits because I can prove the collusion from minute one. And of course, the assignment of that same psych who was asked to leave, the admission of the GAL admitting she destroyed evidence, the proving that the opposing counsel manipulated and antagonized witnesses, the destruction of evidence, the school's lawyers admitting they destroyed her records. That's all in court record. It might be suppressed for now, but not in a federal suit. So that's what we've been doing. We've been working feverishly to do a lot of case precedents, a lot of case research, trying to find the right paralegals, which has been sadly not very easy. Lawyers won't touch this because it's bar protecting the bar. So the update really is we are very close now of having the RICO ready, having the civils ready, and having the press ready and declaring war. And I'll be honest with the parents out there, it is not easy and you cannot do it quickly. So it's taken me almost a year to assemble all of this together.
Wow. Yeah. And that would daunt a lot of parents. That would, it's just so overwhelming. How are you handling it?
I mean, my mental health is good. I talk to my psychologist regularly. I have a very, very good, I would say that they've become a friend over the years. But someone who's helped me process my own traumas because I was a child of the system as well. My parents had a nasty divorce. I was in therapy through the court. I was in GAL from the court. It was pretty nasty when I was 9, 10 years old. Unfortunately, a generational curse from my child. And so my mental health is fantastic. My physical health has gone up and down. I don't think I'm going to tell anyone anything new by saying that when you're under stress for a long time, the cortisol levels in your body go ballistic.
Right.
You gain weight, you go gray, you lose sleep, so actively working on things, diet, exercise, etc., to stay kind of balanced has been key throughout this process.
Yeah.
So really my mental health and physical health are fantastic. My mental health notwithstanding, just the agony of knowing that my daughter can't talk to me, knowing she wants to, even in the 604 custody evaluation report, it says, Kiko said dad did nothing wrong. And she cried and said she missed him. And said, I didn't do anything wrong and dad didn't do anything wrong. It's in the report. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I've proven legally I've done nothing. I've proven within the system I've done nothing. I've proven with the court's own agents I did nothing wrong. And I've proven the court agents themselves have framed me. So my peace of mind actually is pretty strong. I don't have the guilt because I've done nothing wrong.
Right.
There's no guilt there. Could I have had a different lawyer? Could I have done something different? I'm going to tell every parent the really bad news. They have this stuff mapped out long before you walk into court. They know what to do. If you hire a witness or an expert, they know how to shut them down. If you have a psychological report, they'll find a way to dismiss it. If you have proof, they'll find a way to destroy it. So I'm really bad news for the parents out there, but you're not going to solve the domestic court problem in domestic court. And I think that's the big takeaway from this 1 year of really busting my butt, learning everything I can about domestic, civil, and federal courts and all the different statutes and limitations and all the other different things that I've learned. That's really what I spent my year doing, was prepping these cases and just learning and reading and reading and reading.
Family court is dismal, and that's why I think it should be abolished. Really.
I've always said this. If there's a case that involves child abuse, let criminal court handle it.
Precisely.
It's an allegation of a crime. Why are we letting domestic judges who are in a commercial court with no rule of law present, it seems, to rule on things that they're not prepared for or trained in? they don't know the laws. And if they do know the laws, they're actively working against them.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there's not a 3-panel in domestic court to vote, a 3-judge panel,
Mm-hmm.
is seemingly an easy fix. How can you let one person's opinion, a GAL's, a judge, a custody evaluator, how can you let one person's opinion determine a child's life? Especially when they all know each other.
Right.
And they know that the next deal and the next case and the next referral and the next Title 4D payment and the next evaluation, they have all their monies tied together.
Well, sure, because I don't think people realize that the Title 4D funding, the taxpayers pay into that as well with their Social Security monies. Of course, I can't explain it because I can't pull up my paperwork because I can explain it better than that. But a lot of that money, it goes into grants and fixing the roads, but it also goes into the judge's retirement accounts. Yes,
People don't understand that there's
right.
referral numbers given between lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
So when a GAL recommends a psychologist or another lawyer, they're getting a cut. And in some states that's allowed, and in some states it's not and frowned upon. In some states it's illegal. But in Illinois, I'm not even allowed to pull the judge's finances. States like Florida allow you to see the judge's reports, their financial reports. So Illinois won't even allow me to pull how the judge makes her money. But I do know for a fact she has a Rolodex sitting right on her stand, right on her pulpit. And every single time there was a new psych, ooh, money involved. Who do I have on my list? Ooh, a GAL. Ooh, who do I have on my list? Oh, the GAL screwed up. Let me bring it on a child rep for $4.75 an hour. Ooh, who do I have on my list?
Absolutely.
And in Illinois, what's crazy, the judge can deem what their hourly rate is. There's no cap. The GAL came in at, I think she was $2.75 an hour. The judge jacked it to $4.75 an hour. The child rep came in at $2.50 an hour. She jacked it to $4.75 to match the GAL. So why do I have to spend $1,000 per hour to have those two people that I didn't have a choice of, that they're supposed to be capped? Why? Because I have a company in a white face and my ex-wife has a company in a white face. Do we look like we have unlimited pockets? Well, maybe. Are we going to fight to the death for my child's rights? Maybe. But why on earth is the judge allowed to jack up their rates? Shouldn't it be if it's a taxpayer-based system, shouldn't there be a flat number, cap number on that referral rate or on that hourly rate? And it's not. So think about how much money changes hands in one custody battle. My GAL on one of her invoices waived her fees to my ex-wife. That's not bias. She claims she spent 9 hours talking to the school officials before reporting my daughter's abuse. I have the school officials under oath saying they didn't talk to her. So she overbilled, which is a federal offense. This system has nothing to do with protecting children. It is a money-grabbing scheme, and they have it cold. They have every angle, every person, every Rolodex, every phone number, every trick in the book, and you're walking in to a meat grinder, parents. We all walk in with the hope that the judge and the jury and well, not the jury in domestic court at least, but the judge and the GAL and the people have our child's best interest at heart, and they don't. No,
not at all.
They want to extend the cases and make as much money off of two bitter parents as possible. And they don't care what happens to the kid, because if the kid gets screwed up, they're just going to be a nice little piece of future revenue for them.
Exactly.
So that's really the summary. I mean, I know we went a little bit off topic on the specific machinations of the court, but I think that's important to talk about. And I think we should spend a lot more time on that today, talking about it, because I've been through hell My daughter's been through hell. You have been through hell. Your children have been through hell. Every parent on this system has been through hell. But I will bet bottom dollar in these dirty courts with these dirty judges. I bet bottom dollar 95% of the kids were put into the wrong home on purpose to extend the cases and make money.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
It's a system. Why would they give it? If there's a report of abuse and proof of abuse, why would you even think about putting that child in the other home? But they put in the abusive home. Why? Because the abuser will spend any amount of money possible to protect their reputation, and the non-abuser protective parent will spend any amount of money to save their kid. Ching, ching, ching. It's all money. If they put that kid in the safe home while they evaluate the case, the kid's safe and they don't make any money.
Right, right. And they, like you said, the judge has a Rolodex and they handpick their psychologists. And boy, did we end up with a complete loser. But this is what's happening to a lot of parents all over globally. This is a big problem. We have got to somehow abolish family court.
Well, my RICO case is going directly at the domestic court system because, as you know, and probably people who's listening knows, but for those that may not, RICO was created for the mob. It was created to be able to convict the conspirators, even if they weren't directly involved in the crime itself, as long as you can prove that they worked together to do it. So our RICO case, you need, I believe it's 4 instances of one of the violations over the course of 3 to 5 years. Actually, it might be longer. It might be 10 years. The work I've done and the help I've received, we've proven that they violated 9 of the statutes of RICO. So almost half of them. There have been so many violations of each, and it falls under crazy things like slavery, terrorism, like what they're doing to parents, and at least in my case, my child, and the collusion involved. I have them on record colluding, saying, oh, the school lawyer told us to say this today in court. I emailed as a pro se attorney the school lawyers. They knew who all the players were before I emailed them the first time, and I initiated it outside of the court system. They knew I was coming. And then I have the school lawyer admitting under oath they destroyed my daughter's social worker records, which is against the law. So the school has proven that there's collusion, and the GAL said the school officials talked, and the judge wouldn't allow me to talk to the school officials to prove she didn't. So I have overbilling federal crime. I have the judge covering up the federal crime, and then I have the other lawyer lying under oath about the records. And then I have the judge covering up my access to the records for the HIPAA violation. So we have a clean-cut RICO federal case, and we're coming at them with everything we got. So that's it. Like, I'm sorry, parents, but you're not going to get your kids back in a manner that you believe you will, because these agents are not there for you or the kids. It's a profit. It's a profit game.
I always recommend to parents to, when they start this big mess, hopefully, well, try not to start the big mess, but, start researching who your judge knows, who the opposing attorney knows. And there is a site where you can go on to see what amounts of money did the opposing attorney or even your attorney donate to the judge campaign.
I would love to find that resource. I don't think they have to report that in Illinois, so we might not be able to be listed. But I will say this, the fact that there's so much evidence in my case, it's like, I love my daughter and I miss her every single day. We spoke off mic about the Christmas situation, and I think it might be a time to cover that. And this is a recommendation to parents out there. Don't leave yourselves open for new accusations. Get paranoid. It's not unhealthy to be paranoid about being framed, because you will, like I have, be framed if you can prove court agents are causing the problem.
Mhm.
Last year and this past Christmas, I packed gifts on video. I packed her packages and wrapped her packages on video. I typed out the receipts and I typed out the notes to her so they can't claim my hand wrote her any illicit material
Ugh.
and save the files. I recorded boxing her gifts, and then I recorded third parties, couriers carrying the presents on my ex's property. Because if I walk on her property, they have trespassing, harassment, all kinds of fun stuff. If I send my daughter something and don't have records of what I sent her, they can claim I sent her illicit materials or illicit notes.
Oh.
Like, people don't understand how far these parents are coached by these dirty lawyers
Mm-hmm.
because they need to extend the cases to make more money. They're not coaching them on best practices for the child or best practices for the hearings. They're coaching them how to frame the other, set and collude, and accuse and set up the other parent because it extends the case. And once there's an RO, then there's a psych. Once there's two lawyers who don't agree, there's a GAL, as the tiebreaker. Once the child reports any kind of abuse, there's at least one, if not multiple, psychologists, all picked by the judge or the GAL, who's the judge's agent.
And people have to hear this. This is very important.
The level of framing, I have
Mhm.
been framed.
Mhm.
My car has been bugged and I can prove it. My house was broken into and I can prove it. My house was bugged and they actually proved it in their reports by saying private conversational topics that only my daughter and I talked about in our home. So what do? If it's a mom, she's crazy. She's unbalanced. If it's a dad, oh, he's angry. Because the masculine protective energy is anger and the feminine protective energy is chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So moms and dads out there, you will be framed psychologically as one or the other if you're the protective parent and they want to extend your case. I'm sorry to give you more bad news, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't care about you or your kid.
No. No, I mean, hey, reality is the reality of family court until we get this thing abolished.
So I'm saying this as my own education, from my own experience, from my own lawyers I've used and my own paralegals I've used. And I don't currently have a lawyer on the domestic side because I don't trust any of them. They're all from the same group of people. I do have lawyers on the civils and federal stuff, and they'll remain nameless. But all of the stuff I've learned is where I'm speaking from. So take this as experience advice. Do not take this as legal advice. I cannot give legal advice about any state. All I can do is share my experiences.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
So what I'm telling parents is pull your statutes out. Every state has a CS manual somewhere. All right, or SSC manual somewhere, the Supreme Court of your state. Everyone has statutes for child and custody and domestic and civil. Sorry, guys, you're going to have to go out and read those on your own because you cannot trust your lawyers to read them for you.
Mm-hmm.
Before you submit things, before your lawyer submits things, review.
Mm-hmm.
Find the statutes that allow you to challenge the court, to have them reverse decisions, to have the judge reevaluate orders. There are timelines on all these things. Some are as little as 6 days. Some are as small as 20.
Mm-hmm.
You have the ability to do this on your own, but you also have to keep check and watch over your lawyers because I'm telling you, everyone, your lawyers are part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're a domestic family court specialist, they're part of it.
I agree. Oh, yeah.
Lawyers are like water. They will find the cricks and cracks and the open places to find a way through. That's what their job is. The domestic court structure was designed to make money. And all these lawyers have learned how to fill the cracks and get through the challenges and navigate the waters to get through your evidence, your story, your kids' best interest. They know how to work all those to get the result they want. And the result most of them want is maximizing fees.
Sad but true. Yes.
So that's really, I mean, there's no real major update, like I said, but that's the Christmas present story. Birthday's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
My ex-wife has allowed my father, who's estranged, and my mother, who is now estranged, and we can talk about that briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you access to her. So my father and my mother are allowed to send her letters and pictures and share stuff. Mm-hmm. Because it makes her appear like she, to the court system and to the outside world, like she's doing her best and I'm the problem. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I sat down with my mother for Christmas, first time I've talked to her in a while, and I said, what's the deal? Oh, well, here's what your daughter sends me. You know I'm not allowed to mention you. And I said, okay, well, do you want to keep in contact with me again? Oh no, I was told that if I do that, she'll cut me off from your daughter. So I'm going to keep. Okay. People have to understand out there, again, more bad news. I'm sorry, parents. Mm. You're going to lose friends over this because you're going to be framed as some kind of abuser or alienator or some other made up phrasing, even though you're trying to protect your kid. You're going to be framed as a bad brother, sister, in-law, cousin, son, daughter. You might lose your parents over this like I have. You might lose friends over this like I have. You might lose your reputation over this.
Oh, yes.
I know dozens of parents who've lost their jobs.
Yep.
So again, you have to put together the mindset that they're coming at you any way they can. My websites, I own multiple small companies. My websites for my companies were hacked and deleted in October of this year. I put them back up, but I had a website for my daughter's case, and I was documenting the timeline, which is totally allowed by law. They're public records. But Illinois passed, I think it was in November, it passed an anti-dox law. You know what that is? Okay, it's kind of an anti-defamation law passed by Governor Pritzker. It says that if someone feels, and I'm not exaggerating the phrasing, if someone feels that someone else's statements of fact can hurt their revenue or income, that by definition is illegal. So by me stating facts before that law was passed online, I fell well within their rights. They deleted my website. So now if I put it back up, I am violating the anti-dox law of Illinois. Because I'm telling the truth about dirty lawyers and psychologists and school officials, which makes me in violation of the anti-dox law because it's an online law for online postings. So again, let me reiterate, simplify it for the audience. They hacked my server, deleted my websites, deleted my company's basis, and deleted my daughter's profiles of my case, just so they could frame me for the anti-doxing violation later. Do you have any idea the reach of these people if they're literally hacking emails and phones and computers? Parents, you have to live in paranoia. Get a flip phone to talk about your case, even to your friends and your family. Do not talk about your case on an iPhone or an Android. If you read everything that the judge submits and the opposing counsel submits, Look for weird words and phrases that you say in your own home that nobody would know about except you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good chance your house is bugged or your phone is bugged. Don't talk about your case around an iPhone or an Android. Leave it in the house, turn it off, walk outside and talk on a flip phone to your lawyer or your paralegal or your family or your friends. I'm not making this stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
I can prove it to anybody who wants to email me. Like it's unbelievable. I have a report from Apple saying my ex-wife hacked my iCloud. I have evidence submitted to court with phrases only my daughter and I talked about in the privacy of our own home. I have a report from a sweep team who found the bug in my car in my house. I was framed. They fabricated an investigation, a state investigation into me. The SEC and FBI audited my company out of the blue 2 years ago and destroyed my reputation by calling every one of my investors and saying that they suspected me of fraud, which there was no fraud. I have a letter from the FBI and the SEC saying I'm clean,
Mm-hmm.
but the reputation damage already occurred. They will come at you any way they can if you're getting closer and closer to exposing them.
Mm-hmm.
I have private files, private backups in 7 different locations that if I get shot or a bolt of lightning hits me, it gets distributed under my trust. That's another thing. Parents, create a trust for your child.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get shot or you get hit by a bus or a bolt of lightning hits you or you have a heart attack,
Mm-hmm.
your money goes to your ex. You can give it to your child, but you have to put it in a trust protection because if they're not 18, you don't get a nickel of it. So like you have to make preparations for war because parents, that's what you're in. You're in a war and you're not fighting against your ex. Your ex is a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
You're fighting against the court and the corrupt system and these dirty lawyers who know how to find cracks and rocks
Mm-hmm.
and how to hide evidence and how to manipulate evidence and how to manipulate court reports. There's multiple reports that came out recently about them doctoring the court reporters' transcripts.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I've covered the case with Mark Andrews in Sonoma County. Only in California did
Not
they.
only in California, I've proven
Right.
they've manipulated my stuff too in Illinois.
See, that's why, watch your transcripts. I always took notes when people were talking. I was always writing everything down. Anyway, then I'd still buy the transcript and just compare.
Like I said, so the update is like I said, I need to get to a jury. I need to get to a judge. I need to get to something bigger because domestic court is judge with immunity, GAL with immunity, and psychologist evaluator with immunity. If the person making the decisions, the person reporting the evidence, and the person reporting the psych profiles all have immunity, how can you possibly trust a word they say?
Mm-hmm.
There's no recourse for anything they do.
Mm-mm.
And it violates so many of your constitutional rights, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to say again, bad news. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
There's no recourse most parents have to the judges and the GALs and the psychologists. There's no recourse. I think in Illinois, if this is correct, I think it is. I might be wrong. I think the domestic appeal court, I think they review less than 5% of the cases submitted, less than 2% of the domestic cases submitted, and they only overturn a small percentage of those. And I think if the math serves, 0.02% of domestic hearings and results get overturned. 0.02.
Pathetic.
You can't trust the appeal court to fix this. 0.02, guys, you're going to roll your dice on 0.02 in Vegas? Geez, even blackjack's 45%, I think, or something like that. So like I said, so I mean, this is what I'm trying to explain on our visit today. Just the generalization of the system itself. Like parents, there's no good news.
Hmm.
Every good lawyer you hear about probably is a good lawyer because they know how to play the system better than somebody else. It doesn't mean they're not going to play the system, and it doesn't mean they're not going to protect your kid or that they're going to protect your kid. The best parents I know who've gotten the most discovery and the most transcripts and the most momentum are the ones who went pro se and did their own case. Because the bar won't not hurt the bar. Domestic lawyer will not hurt domestic lawyer because they all have to work together
Hmm.
in the afternoon session on another case. They all have to work together next week on a different family. They all have to work together next year on a different deal. And if you don't think there's deals made behind the scenes, hey, if you help me out with this Kolar case, I'll help you out with this Smith case.
Hmm.
If you don't think that happens, oof, wow,
Hmm.
happens every day.
Yes, it does.
Kids are baseball cards to these people,
Yeah.
and the parents are the gum getting chewed up.
How can people reach you if they have a question?
Well, I have a really, really strong Instagram presence.
Okay.
It's Keko, Keko underscore coalition. It documents my entire case.
Hmm.
It documents everything I've learned about domestic court. There's free resources for psychs and lawyers for parents
Hmm.
to get some advice. And not necessarily from your state. You don't necessarily want to have people from your state give you advice. You want to have third parties. But I have those posted. I have the summary of my daughter's stuff. I have a lot of funny and motivational kind of funny little memes to keep parents kind of light about their stuff because you have to take it all with a grain of salt some days because some days it's really, really hard.
Hmm. Hmm.
But people can go there, message me first
Hmm.
because it's a private account for many reasons. Message me first and say, hey, I heard you on Marianne. I want to follow you. And I'll let you in, and then you have access to all of this because I really want to talk to more parents. I really want to talk to more, people involved. And honestly, my email's been corrupted, so I don't trust my email anymore.
Hmm.
You emailed me on a different email this time to come on because I don't trust it. So, parents, I'm telling you, like I said, come find me. I'm willing to help anyone I can. I can't burn up my mental state or my money or my time that much, but I will do everything in my power to put you in the right direction.
Hmm.
But yeah, my update is preparing for war. Like right now, I'm just trying to lock up a few more long-term contracts, you know, with clients. And once I lay out that 2 to 3 year revenue stream that I know is guaranteed by contract and by law,
Hmm.
I'm selling a piece of my company for some extra cash to have a little quiet partner to earn money by me doing the work. All of these steps I'm in right now, waiting for that war, because I need to make sure I have a 2 to 3, maybe even a 4 year financial capacity to make no money.
Hmm.
Because these domestic cases, I've given up on that domestic system. The civil sometimes is 2 3 years, federal 2 3 years. So once I file all this and it goes haywire online and it goes haywire in public view, it's going to be really, really hard to talk to a client. It's going to be really, really hard to tell them that, hey, man, I know I'm in the middle of a war, but I have plenty of time to focus on your business. Like I said, I want to have all those things in place before we go kamikaze, but we are ready to go kamikaze. I spent the year preparing to go kamikaze and we are ready. So like I said, I'll help parents, I'll guide them, I'll tell them whatever they need to hear and
Hmm.
give them the resources and the pathway. But yeah, my deal is getting the money in place and then going to war.
Excellent advice. And I'd like to have you come back on the podcast again in the
Oh,
future.
absolutely.
Most definitely. But don't jump off. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I am your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth, and Raised by These Wolves, How Family and Federal Courts Are Failing Our Children. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube, Apple iTunes, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, and other platforms I'm not aware of. And feel free to buy me a cup of coffee to keep this podcast going. Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you for having me again.
You'll be back.